Hi guys, and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards and synthesizers. And continuing with my ongoing Depeche Mode album review series, this is Music for the Masses, Part 3. So it's been a while since I released Part 2, but as you know, I took a much needed sanity break from YouTube. And just to step back and reassess and evaluate what I was doing. We have reached 10,000 subscribers now, guys, so I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much to all of those of you who have just joined, and to those of you who have been with me from the beginning. I remember when we started with nothing, and to get to 10,100 I saw. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I've also moved to a new premises, and that has taken a lot of time to, get the new studio up and running. But we are up and running and back to make some serious videos and kick some ass. Right, so let's recap where we are so far. In parts 1 and 2, we discussed the album in general. We looked at some of the general history. We, talked about the general sound of the record. I also gave practical examples of Martin and Dave's, how they sang and how they layered their vocals. I will leave links to those videos in the description below. And in part 2, we analyzed the lyrics of this album, because that is very interesting. I've always talked about how Martin's songs, even if you've listened to these songs for years, they take on a new meaning. When you think you've tried every road, every avenue, take one more look at what you found old, and in it you'll find something new. Indeed, as that lyric that I just sang points out, is that these songs, and even Dave Vaughn himself has said how these songs, although he's been singing them for many years, over the years they have different meanings to him. And that is what I was trying to illustrate in part 2, was that we as fans, although we agree we all love this band, how we can all disagree on what the subject matter is. And that was illustrated very well in Little 15, which for many years I thought was a song about a 15-year-old girl that, the person that was writing the song, in this case Martin, it was taking this lost 15-year-old girl under your wing. I'll take you under my wing. And, looking after her. But it was pointed out to me by one of my subscribers that Little 15 is indeed about a 15-year-old boy living with his with his mother, who's a single parent, and how she worries about him. And that's interesting, and I've talked about this a lot, is how Martin's songs very often on face value can appear to be very obvious, but dig a little deeper and you will find there are so many layers to them, just as there are so many layers to his songwriting, just as there are so many layers in the sound. It's a rich tapestry of songwriting combined with a rich tapestry of sounds. And I don't want to get too philosophical now, but yeah, this is why we love this band. And this is also one of the reasons I respect Martin. Martin being a very private, shy kind of person. He doesn't, he's not a very chatty, out there, doing many interviews kind of guy. He keeps himself to himself, and I feel that he expresses himself through his songwriting, just as many great introverted artists have always done. And although I believe Martin does have a meaning behind the songs, the meanings that he writes, and when he writes a song, it's very personal and it has a personal meaning to him, but he does not disclose to us what that means, and thereby leaving it open to your interpretation. You and I as the listener can listen to these songs and relate to them, and this is why these songs have been so powerful. And I look at a lot of my subscribers in my channel and in my Facebook group. I've got a lot of teenagers, some people as young as 14 have joined who are massive Depeche Mode fans, and I'm thinking, wow, you've got really good taste and, very grown-up taste. This just proves that Depeche Mode's music is timeless and will always resonate, with a new generation. Because what I always try to point out to people is who are not Depeche Mode fans is if you take these songs and you play them just on a piano and you strip away all the electronics and all the technology, you are left with very powerful melodies and harmonically brilliant compositions. So we have already covered a lot of ground in parts 1 and 2. I also interviewed Dave Bascombe, which was a dream come true. And I want to thank you to those of you who helped me fund that interview. Guys, the links to parts 1 and 2, as well as the in-depth interview with Mr. Dave Bascombe himself, all the links to those videos are in the description below. Please watch those and then come back to this video. The Dave Bascombe series was a dream come true, and that was really just, I just felt that as a hardcore Depeche Mode fan, and as many of you in my community know, there is so many information out there about Flood and, you know, Gareth Jones, Daniel Miller, Ben Hillier, but there's not much information about, you know, there wasn't much information about Dave Bascombe and this record. And it's such a huge and important record, and there wasn't much about it. And that is why I felt I had to go out and ask him the questions. And I'm happy to say we came back with a very good interview with content that I'm very proud of. And I'm just thinking now, another one that there is not much information on is on the Ultra album with Tim Cinnamon. Tim Cinnamon. Tim, the producer of Ultra. By the way, Tim, I don't know where you are, but I'm coming for you for an interview. So a lot of ground was already covered in parts 1 and 2, but now for parts 3, 4, and 5, I want to delve really deeply into the songs. We're going to really go under the hood now, and we're going to look at the songs. I want to break it down into their structures. Now, I will break these songs down in a very simplistic way, because as you guys know, I'm not musically schooled. I've taught myself, so I've never had traditional lessons. But that does, I found, as many have said, allow me to explain things in a more simplistic, easy to understand way for people who are not musicians. So it does work. So in this part, which is part 3, we're going to focus on the first 3 songs on this vinyl, which are Never Let Me Down Again, The Things You Said, and Strangelove. And then on the next part, we will do the next 3 songs. And on the next part, we'll do the final 3 songs. It is necessary to draw this out because we're going to go into quite a bit of detail, and I don't want the videos to be too long. Guys, my videos, very long and unashamedly full of detail. This is going to be a big one. Go and grab your favorite drink, a cup of tea, a coffee, and let's jump into part 3 of Music for the Masses. Never Let Me Down Again is a Depeche Mode classic. In fact, this is probably one of those songs, if someone came to you and said, I've never heard Depeche Mode, play me one song. And this is probably one of the top 5 Depeche Mode songs ever, which is highlighted in many ways. Just think of any concert you go to, you know that at the end of the encore or at the end of the show, Never Let Me Down Again is going to come and we're all going to wave our arms. It has a really anthemic sound to it. And one of my subscribers actually described Never Let Me Down Again very well. They said it is the song that is the perfect combination between dark and optimistic, and that's quite a difficult line to tread when you're doing melancholic music, because you're always going to tread into the gloomy side, and if you go too much into the light, it becomes a more sort of, you know, a more light-hearted song, and of course another subject. But Never Let Me Down Again, I think that was a great explanation. It is a song which has it has very sort of like a very grown-up sound. If you listen to the tempo, dum da dum dum da, it's not rushing. It's very grown up, and the layers, there are many. It's made up of many layers which are quite simple, all layered together to bring out this beast of a song, which you will notice when I run through it in my piano improvisation at the end. You will notice how many little melodic parts there are. But let's just look at the song in general. Now, like most great pieces of art, whether they be music or whatever, it's always the most simple things that turn out to be the most timeless and things that we really resonate with. Starting with Never Let Me Down Again, let's look at the simplistic bass line. It's just a droning and then over the top of that, we've got the iconic. put the two together. And then it's followed by now breaking it down into just its basic piano chord form, and this is where the intrigue and the fascination comes in. I've talked about in previous videos how Martin Gore has this thing he does with melodies. Now remember guys, you know I'm not classically trained, I've never had a music lesson in my life. So that does allow me to explain things in a more simplistic way because I do not have any theoretical knowledge. But I've talked a lot about this thing that Martin Gore does with chords and melodies. And I've coined the phrase, what I call the left field chord, because it's that kind of chord that it hits you from the left field. It's like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And there's a lot of that in Depeche Mode's music because of Martin Gore's songwriting. And it probably deserves a video on its own. But let me give you just a few demonstrations what I mean. So if we take the introduction to Never Let Me Down Again, let me show you what I mean by the left field chord. You've got the... There it is. It has a sort of tension to it. Here it comes. Feel that? Then it kind of resolves. Now he uses that a lot, that what I call the left field chord, that there's always a note or a chord in there that has this like intense feeling where it's a little bit off or a little bit discordant. We see that in Stripped. Here it comes. You feel that? Here it comes. And it resolves. Another example, Walking in My Shoes. There it is. Here it comes again. And then it resolves. Well, resolve is probably not the right technical term, but there are many examples of this, and we will do a video on that. But coming back to Never Let Me Down Again, it is a classical, what I call a Goreism, a Martin Goreism, something that he does that no one else seems to do. It's that note or that chord that just comes in from nowhere and you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that, but it is beautiful. So Never Let Me Down Again starts with the... And then again. And then the next part. And then the I'm taking a ride with my best friend. And then the same again. I hope he never lets me down again. And here comes variation. He knows where he's taking me where I want to be. That B flat brings in the variation, and then I'm taking a ride with my best friend. Now this is interesting, this part here. That little interlude part, then it gets to the chorus. We're flying high. But what was interesting, if you watched my Bascombe interview, you will notice that Alan Wilder was very good at interpreting Martin's songs, as I've always said. I've always talked about Alan Wilder as being the sort of the engineer, whereas Martin's kind of like the architect. The architect comes up with the dream, and the civil engineer will make the dream a reality by putting practical things into it, practical approaches to make it work. Getting very philosophical once again. But interestingly is that this little part, just before the chorus, this... that part was almost edited out. And Dave Bascombe did tell me in that interview how there was a lot of editing done when Martin would bring his demos in. He'd present his demos and his demos would sound a certain way. And it was usually Alan would look at these demos and go, okay, right, you need to lose that bit. And we'll, you know, he would rearrange everything to make the songs better, for a lack of a better word. So it's interesting how this little part... almost got edited out. But apparently while they were sitting in the studio, I think Dave Bascombe said, I really like that part. And Alan said, okay, well, we'll leave it in. But if we look back at it now, and because, you know, if we look at songs like this that are so deeply ingrained into our psyche, we could not imagine them being any other way. I mean, just imagine it not having that song. It does work, but let me show you what it would sound like. So if we take it from the... He knows where he's taking me where I want to be. I'm taking a ride with my best friend. We're flying high, we're watching the world. You see how it would work, but it just sounds so more complete the way we're used to it, which is the... He knows where he's taking me where I want to be. I'm taking a ride with my best friend. And then the part. And this brings us to the glorious anthemic chorus. We're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. Now, I've talked about this in detail in quite a few of my other videos, is the unusual approach, and unusual is a word which is synonymous with Depeche Mode. But the unusual approach for Dave, who is the lead singer, obviously, to sing this chorus just on one note. So he's really going, we're, so on the C, he's going, we're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. Can you see it's just the C? We're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. Okay, he is bending it. We're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. But it's fundamentally just this one note. So, although the chords, so over the chords, it's we're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. Never want to come down, never want to put my feet back down on the ground. But it is Martin who in this case is the, you know, the backing singer. His vocal is kind of, although it's the harmony, it's kind of supplying the kind of the pleasant melodic part, if you would. So Martin's part is we're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. Never want to come down, never want to put my feet back down on the ground. So Martin singing we're flying high, and Dave going, we're flying high, we're watching the world. And I've talked about this in many videos. This is that typical Depeche Mode magic where Dave provides the direct sort of baritone, direct, powerful sound, and Martin does the sort of melodic, beautiful voice. You know, I'm lost for words again. But it's we're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. Never want to come down, never want to put my feet back down on the ground. Then, while you've got those two voices doing that magic, you have the the simplistic little melody part, which I think is played by Fletch, which is... And watch how simple the bass line is. Dun, 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 dun. And you've got that. Dun, 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 dun. Then at the same time in the background you've got that piano part. Loads of simple layers put together. As I say, this is a Mode classic. It absolutely is. It then comes around to the second part of the song, which is essentially everything repeated again. Then I'm taking a ride with my best friend. I hope he never lets me down again. Promises me I'm as safe as houses as long as I remember who's wearing the trousers. I hope he never lets me down again. And then the little part again, which nearly got edited out. And the second chorus again. We're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. Martin's part, and with Dave's part underneath. We're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. And then the song key changes, so if we look at it melodically from the we're flying high, we're watching the world pass us by. Never want to come down, never want to put my feet back down on the ground. And it comes to the D. To the C, A, to the G minor. And then it's the see the stars, they're shining bright. Everything's alright tonight. See the stars, they're shining bright. Everything's alright tonight. And you've got that. So it is that key change in the end which gives it that kind of like euphoric lift. And you know, it's I've got some friends, and I've been around some friends who are like classically trained grade 8 pianists, you know, proper musicians as some people would call them, or schooled musicians. And because I don't have a theoretical understanding of music, I have a real sort of, I just understand it the way I understand it. And I always love it when I talk to someone who is musically schooled. And I always like to say, show them a Depeche Mode song. And very often when I'm talking to people who are musically schooled to that level, they do recognize the music as very well put together, but also very odd. And I think this is sometimes a strength for you if you haven't studied music, is that you kind of learn it backwards. And I'm not recommending that. It certainly has, it's worked for me and it's worked for many others. They always say you need to know the rules before you can break them. A subject for another video, and there are no hard and fast rules, but I just think that the more I, you know, analyze Martin's songs, you know, through this series, I can just see things that he does in his songwriting, and indeed with the help of Alan for the interpretation, that it's just so unusual and so unique in many ways. Right, so now I will play you what I call a free-flowing piano improvisation of the song. It's just using a straightforward piano sound, and once again it is to illustrate to you how melodically beautiful the song is without all the technology and the synthesizers. This is free-flowing. I'm not reading it. I'm just sort of making it up as I go based on the structure of the song and the melodies. So here goes. The Things You Said is a haunting, hypnotic, melancholic ballad all about betrayal and disappointment, and the mood of the song, the sounds that were used and everything, in conjunction with the subject matter and the chord structure and everything, works so well together. Along with that sort of childlike, sentimental, lead sound. I heard it from my friends about the things you said. I heard it from my friends about the things you said. So many simple but great sounds all used together to form this iconic ballad. The composition of this song is simplistic yet beautifully melodic. It fundamentally is just these two chords, the C minor to the G sharp. And that is kind of emphasized by the bass line, which is straightforward. And the chords, I heard it from my friends about the things you said. I heard it from my friends about the things you said. But they know me better than that. They know me better than that. They know my weaknesses. And then there's the ad-lib. I never tried to hide them. They know my weaknesses. You tried them. And then it goes on to the melodic part. But on the melodic part, it just continues playing from this C minor to this G sharp. And it's and then back into it. I heard it from my friends about the things you said. I think the mere fact that this song goes from one chord to the next, it gives it that kind of like subdued feeling, like if you were sitting there going, you're just in a trance. And I think had there been more chord progressions in it, it would not have the kind of feel it has. So once again, it's perfectly executed. When we get to the bridge, there is a variation. It goes from the F minor. I get so carried away. So from the F minor to the B flat to the C minor. And it's I get so carried away, but you brought me down to earth. I thought we had something precious. And back to the G sharp. Now I know what it's worth. And all the way through, right even until the bitter end of the song, it's the... They know me better than that. They know me better than that. There's not much to say about this song. It is just perfectly produced and perfectly composed and everything. Right, and now I will once again do a free-flowing, improvised, just off-the-cuff piano version of the song. Strangelove is another standout track on this album, and certainly one of their biggest songs of all time, and it was also released as a single. Once again, lots of simplistic layers put together to form this great song. Right, so the chord structure, starting on the E minor, there'll be times when my crimes, to the C, will seem almost, up to the D, unforgivable, back to the E minor. I give in to sin, because you have to make this life livable. And then back to the E minor, but when you think I've had enough from your sea of love, back to the C, I'll take more than another, back to the D, river full, E minor, yes, and I'll make it. Now it changes a bit to the D, all worth, to the A minor, while, and then it's got this little run up here, I'll make your heart smile. The chorus is a slight variation. It's E minor, A minor to D. So it's strange love, strange highs and strange lows, strange love. That's how my love goes. And then again, strange love, will you give it to me? Then the next variation, will you take the pain I will give to you again and again, and will you return it? It's got that run up. Boom, 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 da, da, da. So once again, very simple, beautiful chords. And I'm going to now do a piano improvisation, free-flowing, just to emphasize what I'm trying to say. Right, guys, and this concludes part 3 of this album review series. As I say, the first 3 songs. In part 4, I will run through the next 3 songs, which are Sacred, Little 15, and Behind the Wheel. And once again, I will illustrate the structure, play some of the iconic sounds, and then I will do a piano improvisation at the end, just to sort of illustrate to you, the melodical structure of the song, and also it helps you hear the song and interpret it in a different way to what we're sort of used to. If this is your first time to my channel, I would like to welcome you with open arms, and I'm hoping you will hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and join this like-minded, positive community. I'm also on Instagram, follow me there. I'm also on Twitter, but I don't really understand how it works. But I would also like to invite you to my Facebook group. Check out the links, everything's below. And I'm also on Patreon if you want to support the channel and help me to continue bringing you these videos and this type of content. Loads of things are coming up, guys, but I'm going to cut this short here. Now remember that I'm going to be doing the live stream here on the channel, where I'm going to be giving away 3 of these Music for the Masses albums. As you remember, on the interviews I got with Dave Bascombe, I got him to autograph these. Now remember that I asked you guys to help me fund that project, the interview with Dave Bascombe. So if you have helped fund that project, your name will be in the draw, and one of you will win one of these 3 autographed Music for the Masses vinyls. Once again, guys, I want to thank you so much to all of you who have been with me from the beginning, and to those of you who have just joined. Share this video with anyone you think who would like it. You've got to have a lot of time to watch my videos. I understand them. They are not for the faint-hearted. They are for the hardcore geek and enthusiast. But I'm always happy to welcome newcomers. Guys, thank you so much as always. It's good to be back, and there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up, and I can't wait to share it all with you. For now, I hope you will take care of yourselves. Be good to those you love. Don't be a dick, and take care of yourselves. Adios.